From the Iroquois people comes a proverb known as the seventh generation principle. Quote, in every deliberation, we must consider the impact on the seventh generation, end quote. And from military theorists comes the concept, the generations of warfare. Together, from a principle about sustainability and a concept of war emerges seventh generation warfare. This is seventh generation warfare, and I am your current host, John Nelson. This episode will be discussing how to fight a seventh generation war. Right off the bat, I will tell you that everyone's seventh generation war is going to look different. Factors such as socioeconomic status, spiritual beliefs, and many, many more will play a major role in what is important to you and your family. Keep this in mind when you're starting your seventh generation war, and consider how these factors might change over time. By time, I mean not only in your life, but in the lives of your children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. I would encourage you, when starting your seventh generation war, to not get overzealous in your efforts. The goal is to have an effort that is sustainable for your descendants. If you are too motivated to become a seventh generation warfare fighter, although this is a good thing, you may not be giving proper thought to whether your children will follow you in your bayonet charge. If you go too hard, you might burn them out. If you focus too much on your own wants instead of the wants or needs of your family, then your children might not only retreat from the battlefield, they might become deserters. Also, when starting the seventh generation war, include as much family as possible. If your children are too young to contribute, then look to your parents. You can also look to brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, anyone whom you think could provide positive value for your family moving forward. It is possible that some of these people have been feeling that they've wanted to share some of the lessons learned in their life, but haven't quite known how to do it. Starting a conversation with them about seventh generation warfare might unlock those doors. Okay. So now I'm going to share with you a few of the things that I am doing for seventh generation warfare. And some things that I would like to do. I'm not going to go into great depth on any of them, but the purpose of this is to give you some concept of what a seventh generation warfare might look like. I plan on doing more in-depth videos on all these things later on. First and foremost, I think every seventh generation warfare effort must include sixth generation warfare campaigns waged by the individuals. If you remember back to what is seventh generation warfare video, we discussed sixth generation warfare, and it is nonviolent warfare for control over one's own will. This is a prerequisite for fighting a seventh generation warfare because of two reasons. One, you have to be a willful participant of seventh generation warfare. So you have to separate your will from the will of others. And two, to ensure that your seventh generation warfare effort has not been infiltrated by enemy forces, again, you have to know your own will. If you remember back to the other video, we discussed sixth generation warfare. It was kind of a reaction to fifth generation warfare, which is propaganda and public relations, marketing, campaigning, things like that. Fifth generation warfare is institutions and governments trying to control your heart, mind, values, and influence you in any way that they can to get a desired outcome for themselves. And sixth generation warfare is a reaction to that type of warfare. So, you and any seventh generation war fighters that come after you should understand what your own will is before engaging in seventh generation warfare. Next, there is one aspect of sixth generation warfare that is also completely applicable to seventh generation warfare. That's what I call being ready side up. I have a Facebook group, some of you are familiar with, called Ready Side Up, Not Quite Prepping, Survival, or Homesteading. You can go there to learn more at any time. For layman's terms, it is prepping in a sense, but since sixth generation warfare is about protecting your own will, you have to be in a position where your will can't be bent um, based on needs that you might have. So you need to be prepared for anything life can throw at you, be it natural, societal, or personal disaster. Any of those things, if those can get you to bend your will, then you're not in a very strong position. Sixth generation warfare will help you solve that, but also for a seventh generation warfare, it's about having that readiness for your entire family. After you have gained a degree of readiness, another aspect of seventh generation warfare that is pretty easy to undertake is what has been called gene wars. In essence, this is an effort that is to be involved in the selection of your children's mates and hopefully their marriage partners. I presume that the debate between nature and nurture will always exist. So while most of seventh generation warfare is about nurturing positive environments for our offspring, the gene wars are about adding good nurtured people to the family tree. It's important who your kids get romantically involved with. Next, somewhere, somehow, you need to convey core values to your children. But leadership is best done by example. So I suggest living the values that you're preaching, not just talking about them. Structure your own life so that your children and grandchildren can see you as someone they want to be like, not someone to be avoided. I can't stress that enough. Don't be a hypocrite in front of your children. If you want to instill the virtue of hard work, be a hard worker. If you want to instill the value of honesty, don't lie. Next, communicate the lessons of the past and demonstrate the value of seventh generation warfare itself. The goal is to get your children to want to accept the mission of seventh generation warfare themselves. I think one of the best ways to do this is through story, myth, legends, etc. Also biographies of family members. So much of the stories we consume are not tied to us in any way. But imagine if the characters you read about to your children were all descendants of yours. I think that story is a powerful tool, and I look forward to sharing more about how I plan on building these myths, legends, and biographies into my children's literature exposure. Next, as your tribe grows, and as more and more people come into the seventh generation warfare effort, you'll be in a much better position to benefit economically from the seventh generation war. Division of skills and labor can greatly increase your utility to each other and your ability to secure resources for your war effort. Though this only works if you develop an in-group preference. The goal of your seventh generation war should be to make your family excel above the status quo of society. If your seventh generation warfare effort is producing amazing people focused on building a better future, they are going to want to associate with other great people who think and act alike. In a few generations, this could very easily be cousins, second cousins, or even more distant family than that. If you keep the value within your 7th generation warfare community, it will greatly accelerate the efficacy. I'll do another video on in-group preference, but just know that if you have your community as a tight block and you're bringing resources from outside the community in, but then you're only sharing those resources with it in the community and not sending resources back out, it's going to lift you faster than the general population. That's all I really have to say for now on how to fight 7th generation warfare. That might not seem like a lot to start, but as I elaborate on these concepts in future videos, I think you'll see that that is already a great deal that can be done. That being said, I look forward to hearing what campaigns you might wage in your 7th generation warfare. Whatever you decide to do, remember that the goal is to be sustainable for future generations. That doesn't just mean that that they are capable of doing it. It means that they will want to do it. So ask yourself, how do you appeal to their conscience and get them to willingly choose to do what you have done with your 7th generation war? If you can't figure that out, then perhaps the battle is lost before the first shot is fired. Thank you for listening. This is 7th Generation Warfare. I'm your current host, John Nelson, and that was just a little sample of how to fight a 7th generation war. Thank you.